Well, it's an odd time for us to be streaming, but here it is. We are actually going to be streaming some painting today. A little bit different for us because of the day. It is Friday here in Central Standard Time. We're just after 9 a.m. and generally we don't get an opportunity to stream at this time on this day. Tonight we do have reviews coming up, but I thought we would do some painting here in the studio. So I don't know how long we're going to go. I don't know what all we'll get accomplished, but I figured it would be fun to do some streaming and to get some painting done. I've got a lot on the bracket to do. You can see behind me I've got one figure already on my mount and several surrounding it. Some paint's already picked out. Now, I'm not completely set up, but we will get there. If you end up tuning in, hello. My name is Joe. This is Green Oaks Gaming. And I was going to vortex these before. I hope this isn't too loud. Tried to do all my vortexing prior to the show, and then I just got to give them a quick little shake before I use them. But I'm just breaking all the rules today. So I've got some wood and some leathers that I want to work on today, and we've already done the base coat of the wood. So this is going to be just updates for a couple of figures, primarily the Ranger. Got a little bit of blockage there. Let's get that pokey tool. Open that bad boy up. And there is our wood triad. And for these, I am using wood stain brown, shield brown, and driftwood brown. Good triad, and works really well for wood. I'm going to be using my size 1 and possibly my size 0. Let me get my size 0 ready. Size 0. See, I'm just not prepared today. There we go. And because we have already done the base coat, we're able to dive right in, start doing some highlighting onto these wood components. This is where we start separating out the wood aspects from each other. So we want this arrow to stand out from the bow. And highlighting is how we will accomplish that. as we highlight it up, and we'll be kind of setting the planes apart from each other. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of talking in this video. I hope people don't mind. I'm going to try to just concentrate on painting. And because I don't want to get ticketed, of course, I'm not able to play any music. Normally I listen to music when I'm painting. But again, I don't want to get the old man hammer. Got two figures that need to get these wood elements done. The other one is a 28mm Dwarf that we have been working on. And for that one, I'm not going to do as many layers because it's so small. It just doesn't lend itself to as many layers. Watch the part 2 of Squidmer's paint review. I thought it was really good. They went through and tested all of the brands of paints that are in use in the hobby. I was actually surprised on some of them, like they used Apple Barrel, which is a very price conscious craft paint that you can get at almost every craft store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby and such, also like Walmart's, and just super readily available. And when I started painting miniatures, actually, when I moved off of the Tester's model paints into acrylics, that is what I primarily used, just because of the price point. So I was very excited to see that they covered paints like that as well, because for many people starting in the hobby, that is a very price effective way to go. So our IT department has a new camera set up here. We are just testing it today, part of why we are doing this stream. I want to see how it looks. when we review the video on demand and see does it make sense on this new camera setup for the overhead. Of course, all of our supporters, you are the reason that we're able to look for improvements like that, so thank you. And I'm going to go a little bit slower today than I normally do on my painting. I really want this to, because this model here is a display miniature and not for tabletop use, I just want to make sure that I'm giving it its due justice. Really making sure that I do a good job, as good a job as I possibly can. I'm not perfect. And I'm certainly not the best miniature painter out there, but we all start somewhere with time and effort and practice and more practice and a little more practice. We just continue to get better and better and better at our craft. Been very lucky being able to find a hobby that I am so passionate about. That brings me lots of joy and allows me to bring joy to others by doing it. And you can see on this coverage we're doing lots of coverage on some of these. Because we've got lots of layers to do. And I imagine on screen that doesn't show up a whole lot. Until we start getting into the next layers, where we'll start having more and more separation of color. And again, we'll see it more on ones like this, our Dwarf, where we are going to be doing a little bit more separation on tones. And this here is just a wood effect that we're going to paint onto this shield, the back of this shield. I want to just make it look like this has got a wood construction underneath the metal front. And I'm doing that just by painting some kind of wavy lines. Maybe not wavy, wavy isn't the right word, just not trying to be super straight on the lines for it. Some of the dark brown showing. And just give us some lines of wood grain. To cap it with that lighter color on both ends of that handle. Too thin on this one, so let's go back to it. I'm not going to be at this level putting the wood grain in on this tone, and I'm going to use this for just highlighting. Because this figure is so much bigger, and I want these elements of wood to be a lot more smoothed. I don't want as much wood grain in it. Thinking about where that light is going to sit and play. Very cognizant of what continues to highlight up for consistency. This is where we're going to almost put in the wrong paint there. This is where we're really going to start being able to see some of those details start to pop out. The bow has a lot of character to it, the way it's carved, sculpted, but in game terms, it has been carved by these elves who have done a fantastic job arming our ranger here with fantastic equipment. Here after a minute, I'll check and see how we're doing on the chat. I won't ignore you for sure, but there'll be some bits in between when I'm able to read and paint. Brown's a color I use a ton. Of course, this year I am trying to do a little bit more with more vibrant colors. I don't know how well I'm achieving that with some of these models that I've chosen, but I definitely am trying. Pop a little splash of color in there. Let's hit a couple of these arrows. Arrows I always find I have a hard time doing because of you want to paint the shaft and then you want to paint the fletchings. Sometimes the fletchings are just a little more like, you can very easily paint over what you paint on the shaft when you're doing the fletchings. So it can be a real pain in the butt. Alright, looks like chat's good. Take a breather and get a drink. And on and off, I'm just going to be checking, make sure I got no fires going. Just because the last thing we want are any fires. And I'm doing a horrible job at painting, but I want to make sure everything's nice and dry. Now, because this one's going to get more blends, we're going to spend more time on this figure than the dwarf. That's okay. You can see here on the pants I painted with the same browns to start, and a lot of that was by design because I knew I wanted to go with more brown leather. But we're going to use leather brown on it as well. So the mix is going to be very different. We're not going to use the same wood tone mixes. We'll have the same base, but then we will actually mix in leather colors with that base. Same as what we're doing here with the woods, but just with leather tones. Sounds like some cannon fire out there. Near the mid-April, late mid-April, I am kind of hoping that the time goes by even faster. I'm ready for it to be September already so I can attend the ReaperCon. Looking forward to that. I just purchased the miniatures I need for one of the classes I'm going to be teaching. I had a hard time with it, to tell you the truth. There are a few different thoughts that kind of went through my head. So initially, I know I wanted to do something with eyes. I had a lot of requests last year for classes on eyes, and so I started to plan what I was going to teach, and my initial thought was, well, if we're going to be focusing on eyes, one of the best things to do is a creature with lots of eyes, and they have this figure called the Eye Beast. And you might think it's a beholder, but it's not. It's an eye beast. But this eye beast, aside from having one massive central eye, and then a number of eyes on stalks coming out of this bulbous round head, the bulbous round head slash body also has a number of eyes directly on the body. I mean, you can paint them as bits of flesh or anything like that. You can paint it however you want, but I liked, when I did it the last time, when I painted that figure the last time, I painted it with these eyes, sets of 3 eyes on its body. And I really loved the effect, and there were so many eyes total that for an hour's class there was plenty of opportunity to get a lot of practice in painting eyes. So that was my initial plan, was I was going to use the Eye Tyrant and use that to teach my eye painting class. But because they've been out of stock, I was not able to purchase them. And I thought, well, I can wait and just wait until we get closer to September and see if they come back into stock. The challenge with that is if they don't, then I'm in the same boat, but less time to prep. So I bought a bunch of zombies, and my thought is I am going to give them a regular flesh tone base coat. For me it would be the flesh tone shadow, and then give them a mid-tone of flesh so that they are just like a regular character would be, and I'm able to do 2 miniatures per participant. So my class size, I want to have 10 people, so 20 figures, actually 22 because I'll do 2 as well during the course of the class. And they basically, so that way they don't have to bring miniatures to the class. All they have to do is bring some brushes. I'll have the paint just for consistency. Everybody has to use the same paint to follow along. But that way they can do a total of 4 eyes. So I'll do an example of one and then turn it over to them so that everybody gets a chance to paint some eyes. And then I'll do another example, and then again we'll turn it over to the class to paint a second round. They should be able to paint 4 eyeballs, plus more if they bring their own miniatures or want to. That's all up to them. Then when they leave, they'll have 2 practice miniatures that they can then either update, paint differently, repaint, strip, or keep it as it is. So that's my plan, and we'll see how it goes. There we go, a little wood effect on the inside of that shield, as well as the heft of the axe. Now we've just got the leather gloves to paint and the boots. We've got to finish his beard out. Now the beard, I am actually going to do the same coloring as the wood, but I'm going to switch my brush now to this brush is getting a little worn. You can tell I use it a whole lot. And now this one, I am going to use the same technique I did on the bigger one. It's because there's more character in this beard, and I really want to do it justice. So little bits of hair coming out here under that helmet. And I want these transitions to be a lot smoother. So we're going to be doing more color on this beard. I've had a lot of people ask me how to do hair specifically. I am definitely no expert on it, but what I've found that works really well for me is I will do the base coat solid, and then I want to do the tips always lighter and the crown always lighter, of like a head of hair. That makes it stand out a little bit more from like the scalp, as well as any clothing or the body of the miniature, I guess. So those are the most important aspects. And then of course any high areas where the light is directly going to be. So for this one here, it does have a lot of character in this beard and mustache. So up near the lip, I'm going to make sure I do this mid-tone. A lower mid-tone is what I would call it. And up near the nose where it comes out. Again, we're just building color. This is going to blend very much with the shadowed color, that first layer. But it gives us a good foundation to make our transition smoother as we move up in tone into lighter colors. And these areas just get a little bit smaller and smaller each time that we add a highlight. Pay particular attention to the ends, as well as any curved areas that are facing the light. And that's how we start really picking out the details of the well-sculpted, detailed beard. I'm going to give it really good paint job. And this dwarf here, I am painting more as like a younger dwarf. So I did not go with gray beards. I definitely wanted to go with browns. Thought about doing black, but I really wanted to tie in a little bit more to the shield and axe. You get those little hints of brown from those, but not a crazy amount. So this helps tie those elements in really well. This one will be very minuscule, very minuscule. This is only going to be on select spots. Very tips. And very high points. Whew, just like that, we've got our beard done, as well as the wood on our dwarf. And we've got the wood elements done on the bow and the arrows there for this gal. Now while we're working on this gal, I'm going to do that leather. I've got to. So I did the base coat in that wood stain brown. I'm going to use leather brown and then tanned leather for the leather pants. And same process on our wet palette. We're going to do the blended aspect. Now I'm keeping these ones aside because I'm also going to use this on, in a different formula, on a couple of other miniatures. So we'll come back to that. This one I'm actually going to start with a size 2 brush. pretty dark. Let's go ahead and pull some of that aside. You can tell the mix there is a little bit darker, and that's really because they are different families of brown. So we're going to prep up a 50-50 blend of the blend, and that will allow us to bridge that gap a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we just want good, smooth, even transitions that are not super harsh. This miniature is a display miniature, so I want to really do it a lot of justice. And this is where we will start just building up highlights. Got a lot of transitions to go, so I want to cover a good amount of this brown in certain areas and aspects that we put on as our base coat. Not all of it by any means, but a good portion of it. And we'll be doing some lining, some lines, some stippling. Really making this a fun project for a different technique. Look at it up close, you can see we've done quite a bit of different techniques to it. These pants to look like well-worn leather. And on this figure there are some areas that are a little more challenging to get to, but we will do our best to get to all the areas that I want to be able to highlight up. This is definitely a beautiful sculpt here. If you are just joining or watching for the first time, this is a sculpt that my wife actually got for me because she knows I am big onto Rangers. I would love to do this sculpt, and she was right. Not only is it a gorgeous sculpt, the subject matter of Bow holding Elven Ranger, just right up my alley. And maybe 50% of the miniatures I painted when I first started out were Elven Rangers. So she knows me well. A little bit of debris there. Let's get that pulled off. And these transitions are going to be very subtle until we start getting into higher and higher tonal changes. These ones are very hard to see, especially on camera. I know. Just know that there is delineation in these tones. It's just very, very, very subtle at first. But as we build up our tone and color and move into brighter highlights, we'll see it more and more. It's just going to take a little bit of time because we've got lots of layers to work with. This one has a really interesting pose, but because it is one piece, is a little more challenging, I think, to paint. I'm using a size 2 brush here. You've got plenty of stuff to cover. Bigger brush definitely holds more paint, so you can paint a little bit longer in between reloads. Most important thing is just making sure that you've got a good brush, a really good tip on it. I don't think we as painters can ever stress enough about how important the brush tip is. One little panel left to do there. And this one tonally is very similar to that first brown that we put down on the bow too. Because that brown is so kind of overwhelming, that wood stain brown is very overwhelming. Our first additional color, in this case it was the leather brown, does not have as much of an impact on it, just like our shield brown. And a lot more of that will come as we highlight up. I have a lot of differentiation between the pants and the bow. Let that a moment to dry, get a drink. Wow, we've already been going a good hour. Now we start working on our halved up highlight. And this is where we'll really start driving in some of these variances in tone and color. Start working on more separation in tone. And start getting into the more leather color that we want to see on this sculpt, on these pants specifically. thinking about where we're laying those tones. Of course, we want to look at how would these leather breeches wear? Where would they have the most wear? High points, seams. Take a look at like jeans are a great example. If you get an older pair of jeans, see where have they worn. It's a good indicator of where you want to do your highlights. And your figure should show that off as well. If they're sculpted well, they should definitely show those areas like tighter or more stretched over the form of the figure. You can already see the differentiation just in what we've done so far from one leg to the other. Really makes a difference. Really makes a difference. Whew. Now these stitches we haven't touched yet because I'm going to do those and the belt, some of the belting anyhow, in the same tones, and they are not going to have the same brown base. One thing, especially with leather, if you look, there are so many different tones you can get in leather. So for some of the belts and the boots, I'm going to have a couple of different tones of leather. Some of them are going to be a little more red. Some of them just more leather, tanned leather. Because this figure is wearing so much leather, I want to bring in a lot of different leather tones. And part of that is because I want the elements to stand out from each other. I don't want everything to look like the same exact chunk of leather was used to make everything. So as I think about Rangers specifically, I think about almost like mountain men, to where, yeah, they would make things out of leather when they were up in the mountains, but it was as things wore out and they needed to replace things. So they didn't make a new belt the same time they made a pair of moccasins. When their boots wore out and they needed moccasins, they would make moccasins. If their belt broke, then they would make a belt. So that's the way I kind of think about it. I want to have lots of different tones. Lots of different tones. I hope I'm not blocking that camera with my head. Like I say, I will watch the VOD later, just with my AI, not AI, gosh, IT, to make sure that we're doing good quality imaging on that. One little panel left to go there. You can see already the variations in those leather tones coming out pretty decent, I feel, for leather pants. Block it in here in just a minute. Let's get that last panel. Then we'll be up just straight to our mid-tone, which is just our leather brown. We may take a little break, get a stretch in, use the restroom, get some fresh water. There, all right, looks clear. Got the stream manager up so I can see if anybody is chatting or not. Like I said, I'm not watching it super close though, so don't hesitate if you tune in and want to drop a comment. Feel free. If you do, I welcome you. Just doing some painting today. Working on did some wood earlier. Now we're working on some leather aspects of miniatures. And yeah, just getting some painting in. Odd day and time for me to be able to paint, so I'm rather enjoying it. Alright, let's block that in a little bit. Let's see if we can't see it pretty decent. It kind of looks a little green on my screen. I don't know how it is I'm coming on yours, but starting to get a lot of tonal variation. We're up to do the mid-tone, which is just straight leather. For right now, though, I've got to get where's my notebook? Somewhere around here. There it is. Because we need to hit a restroom break. And we'll zoom in a little bit here. Great, not great. Part of me worried about the casting shadows while I'm painting. I don't want to cast shadows. But there we go. Quick little break, then we'll be right back. All righty. Back. Looks like chat is quiet. All right. I'm going to change it up a little bit. All right, if you're just joining in, thank you for joining in. My name is Joe, and I'm with Green Oaks Gaming. Today we are just doing some painting. And working on wood earlier. Now we're working on leather. Painting some leather. This figure here, I have been excited to do this leather. Getting to do all different kinds of techniques. Getting to do some stippling. Some lining. So we're going to pull out all the stops on this one. This level here is where we really start showing that leather aspect of these pants. The stippling and lining we're doing with just the leather brown is going to really make these feel worn and really have an impact on how this leather is perceived by the naked eye as having wear patterns. Where is this character mostly bending? What's rubbing on stone as they're moving through the wilderness? And these leather wear patterns tell a story, so you want to think about them a little bit. And then as you're applying them, make sure you're keeping consistent from leg to leg. And I call them panels. Well, they're not really panels, but section by section of your miniature. So your upper leg should match your lower leg. Left leg should match the right leg. Those are the panels that I refer to. Any sections that are separated, even if it's by just a little bit. things like knees. So this knee is a little funky because it's got like this fold that protrudes out rather than like a section that's flattened. Well, we could paint it more flattened. I actually am going to keep the sculpt painted the same way, following the curvatures and lines of the sculpt itself. And I apologize, I'm not doing much talking, just concentrating on my painting, throwing myself off by painting on an off day for me. So it's like times when I don't normally stream, I don't do a whole lot of talking, just painting and listening to music. So if that's a distraction or anything, I do apologize, but don't hesitate, pop a comment in chat if you're okay with just hanging out and watching me paint. I don't know if the mic picked up my stomach growling or not. I don't know what's going on. It's not quite lunchtime. We're okay. We can make it, stomach. Got time? Plenty of time. I actually went into work today and was there for a little bit before I saw my reminder that I am out of the office today. I took the day off last month. I put in for the day off and it got approved. And I'd forgotten completely about it. Of course, my wife recently went to visit our grandson and one of our kids, of course, and just completely like threw me a little bit because we've been in like recovery mode of doing a little bit of catch up and everything. So I had just completely not even paid attention to my calendar. So kind of comical, I think, a little bit. So I was like, all right, I will be back in on Monday, see everybody, and left. Looks like we got some comments. Let's see. So, am I going on tonight? I was thinking about going on tonight. I've still got reviews to do, but I could punt it, I suppose. We could punt the review for a week. Yeah, I definitely need to look at the chat. But because it's a kind of a free day and I'm not on schedule, it's more just about sitting and hanging. Yeah, I got to get something in my belly shortly so that it does not rumble too loud. What do you think so far of the leather effects? Do you think they're coming off well? Does it look like good worn leather pants? Maybe I should get some leather pants. See, do it for research, right? So I can see the wear patterns and everything, and be able to emulate it even better on miniatures if I do some leather pants. This little bit of stippling here. A little bit of pain. this big panel here. This is like on the other side's derriere. I want to get a good size section in this tone. No leather pants. I don't know, leather pants could be pretty good. Yeah, so thoughts on doing reviews tonight or a punt. I'm open to feedback in the chat. Because if there's a review, no review tonight. I'm actually okay with that. I was going to say if there is a review, I was going to pull some stuff up through the day so that I could just use the main capture screen, but it takes a little bit of work and time, of course. Can't not think about the time. So it's a little bit more challenging to do. Ooh, getting close on this tone. Getting close on this tone. This one to me is just a challenge because there is no, the other minis are not going to use this tone, so this is just this miniature's focus on the tone. So the other miniatures that I've got 3 other miniatures set for some leather, but I want to do the red leather rather than this brown leather. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to getting these pants done so that I can switch to something where I can switch up the miniature a little bit more. Close, but I'm just about out of this leather color. I may just have enough. So I've just got, oh well, I've got the inside of that leg a little bit, so maybe not. Maybe I'll have to get a little bit more on the palette. I sure hope you are having a fantastic day. Yeah, I agree. Punt on the review. I will get that schedule updated here shortly when I do a little lunch break. I do hope you are having a fantastic day. Whew. There we go, with some leather pants up to mid-tone. Again, to me, it could just be me. Let me put my spectacles on here to see. Yeah, I wish it was 5 p.m. as well. Same. Oh, I guess I don't. Earlier, these looked really green to me. I don't know if it was because of the background or what, but the pants, when I looked at them on the screen, I was like, holy buckets. Oh, looks like I missed a cheek there. I got to get that cheek, so I will need to put a little more leather on there, but the pants so far, which is fine because I need them for these threads anyhow. So I'm going to need a little more leather color, but overall I think they're coming out pretty good. They're looking like leather pants. And so far we've got what, 2 more tones to do. 1 more tone for sure, possibly 2. Let me get my leather. Is that vortex too loud? Good. No green. I had to just bend the background or something. And really just my eyes not being able to focus. So get my size 0, get back into some leather brown. Thin that out quite a bit. Get back to that derriere. Get those spectacles off. The stippling, when you're up close, I mean, you can definitely see the stippling. It's one of the things I've always had a hard time with, is things like the stippling, or dot and dash, sometimes it's called. The techniques, oftentimes, because I'm so close to the miniatures, I second guess myself and I think, nope, that's too apparent. I've got to have better blends. Let's try washes. Let's try, and then I end up actually doing a disservice because I take away that whole technique. So I am also trying to get better and better. I'm going to get it off camera just for a second so I can see, and then I'll get it back on. There we go, just so that I can see the technique working. There we go. That gets that all finished. And then while we're, oh my gosh, I'm a mess. Knocking everything down. Now while we're doing that, since we've got this fresh leather paint on the palette, yep, overthinking it too much sometimes. Too much. Pop in, and we're going to do these stitches. Now these had already been painted with that wood stain brown, but I want these to be completely painted with leather brown because I want these cordages to really be standing out from the pants. I want this to look like a completely different leather. I'll make this be a very soft leather, like elk leather. So it'll be very much lighter in tone. This is its base color. So the other, where we started with that dark brown, that wood stain brown, as its base deepest shadow color. This is going to be this leather's deepest color. So quite a bit of difference in the leather. And that is really how I try to differentiate when I've got characters like this that are wearing so much leather. I try to do the variant tones of leather. So we'll do some of the areas like pouches and belts and everything with our red leathers. We'll do some with this very light leather. That way they stand out from the pants. And gives us multiple tones that are complementary of each other, of course, because they're all in the same family. Then we can look for areas that we're going to punch up the color with contrasting tones. A little overzealous there. Let's take a little bit of that away. Go to another one, let that dry. We'll come back and just clean it up a little bit more. Make sure we've got good finish on it. With the new camera setup, I'm still adjusting a little bit, so you have to let me know how the focus and everything goes, if you don't mind, just so that I can make adjustments if I need to and have things prepped out for viewers to be able to see. Yeah, something colorful next. I'm thinking about doing, I've got this druid here, and the dress part of the druid. At first I was thinking about doing purples, but I also thought on my large samurai, I want to do, the challenge is there's so much, so the shirt under the armor and the pants, I thought about doing, because the armor is going to be primarily red, I thought about doing some greens on the shirt, but then I thought, well, that's pretty basic, pretty plain. Good focus. So yeah, I don't have anything like really prepped that's ready for its bright colors. Aside from skin tones, I got lots of skin tones. I have a dragon, I suppose. But that's not like super colorful. Yeah, I don't have anything really prepped for colorful. I'm open on ideas for colorful throughout even this evening. I'm okay for suggestions on miniatures that I can do really colorfully. Because I would like to paint some more colors on screen, whether that be tomorrow or even later tonight, depending on my, even if it's not on screen, just on my own time. Color, that's my self-challenge for 2022, and so far I've not felt that I've really nailed that yet. All right, now back to my size 2, because the boots are also going to match, aside from the soles, we're going to make the boots match those threads with a more supple leather look. not a whole ton on my palette, but I'll use up what I do have there. The challenge with this aspect is this is the base coat for these boots. So what I do have is not going to give super in-depth coverage, but it'll help. For our first layer. Gotta get my glasses to read. Flower Princess. Oh yes, I do know that Flower Princess. Yes. I have not started that one yet. That one's intimidating because I want to do a fantastic job and not mess it up. So that one intimidates me pretty hard. But that is a good call because I definitely want to do bright colors on it. I've got this Sprite figure that I pulled and thought about doing it, but as I look at it, it looks like mostly like wood. So it's got wood texture in almost like every aspect of it. And it's got some cool mushrooms on the base and everything, but the more I looked at it, the more I was like, man, I hate to paint that wood texture like anything other than wood texture, so what do I do? So I did not do a good job of getting after that one either. Glasses off for this one, so I'm not going to be able to read for just a minute. Yeah, I should just do it. What I need to do is move my paint area closer to my monitor so that I can read without having to take my glasses on and off. Because I can't paint with my glasses. I can't read my monitor without. Maybe, since we're practicing with our new camera setup, we'll do a little bit of change up on the workstation this weekend, maybe this evening, and get it to where I've got the best of both worlds, being able to read and paint at the same time. This one I thought about, so there's this almost leather armor bit. You can't see it very well, but almost like a halter. And then the shirt. I thought about doing the shirt like bright blues, but I haven't decided yet. We will see. finish those boots out. Lots and lots of leather on this figure. Still some aspects on that first one drying, so we'll just let that continue to dry. This miniature, yesterday I knocked it off its base. So I had to go in and pin it. Went ahead and pinned it to the base so that it's got more stability. And I'm able to maneuver it a little bit more. But I do have a little bit, I wasn't able to line the pin and holes up exactly the way they were previously to where the miniature was sitting. So I've got a little bit of space under 1 foot that I'm going to be using some excuse me, a little bit of my foliage to make it look like they are standing flat on the ground. At first I didn't think I would need to pin just because it is a display piece, but I definitely recommend with any miniature, if you've got the opportunity, pin them in place, because even for display pieces while you're painting, it can make a big difference in if you end up trying to maneuver it around and knock it down. You don't want to scratch away any paint or have the miniature break. So got it all pinned up nice and tight this morning. And then able to get back after painting it. Although I do gotta say, I'm looking forward to doing those red leather tones on those minis, just so I can get into the next aspects. The sorceress that I'm doing is going to be super simple. The character that we built is just not crazy, but that miniature should get done pretty fast. And the dwarf is actually getting close. Oh, speaking of that dwarf, now that I'm thinking about it, we have a pouch on the dwarf that is also leather near the cape that I'm going to do in the same tones. One more aspect of the dwarf that we can get a little bit closer to done. As we're working on this. And then, you know what? I'm actually going to do the gloves the same thing. We're going to make the boots the red leather, but the gloves, because he's got this band on here, initially I was going to do the band in this leather color after I did the gloves in a red leather, but I'm going to switch that up. Switch it all up, change my plans, and do it a little differently. The opportunity just to change things up on a whim is kind of nice. While I do love doing commissions and such, sometimes when you're doing these, and then whether you're doing them for your own display or to sell, being able to change direction in a moment's notice is pretty dang nice. Alright, no comments updated there. The little bits of leather that we're going to be focusing on this dwarf again are not very big, these gloves. So initially, as I was going to do these in that red leather, it's a more rigid leather, the dyed leather. And so as I was thinking about the pouch, it got me thinking of the gloves, and that the gloves should be more supple than the boots. You want to be able to have good maneuverability so you can grab that axe, hold that shield tight. You want those gloves to be more like gardening gloves, I guess. So going with this lighter color for the gloves is going to make a lot of sense. Very careful, because I don't want to take away the elements of that axe shaft that we just painted. It's a little bit thin, so we're gonna have to hit those fingers again. Because we want that good opacity. Get that tone to be really opaque. Now I don't have a pop color on that dwarf yet, so we'll see. Uh-oh, there's a commission for me. I'm ready to hear it. I am ready to hear what the commission is. You can text it to me if you need to, because I know you have my text. Do a quick review here, just make sure I've got No fires breaking up again. Oh, the Flower Princess. I'll move it onto my to-do list. It will move on to my to-do list. All right, where's my number 2? There we go. And back to these boots. Get this second coat on here. And again, just for good opacity, just a thin, even coat so that we have a good solid base tone to build up some highlights on. This is the same tone that we ended the pants on, or did the pants last. We'll do a little bit with the next tone, which will be a blend of this and tanned leather. So this is just straight leather brown. So a 50-50 mix of leather brown and tanned brown is the next tone that we'll do on this. The color for these leathers. Doing so much leather is a little bit of a pain in the butt because I do get like browned out. I am definitely a little browned out. But I've got two more tones to do. I need to put my glasses just on my head, so all I need to do is look down. Make sure we've got good opaque coverage on those aspects area, not too shabby. Give that a moment to dry. Let me grab that Flower Princess real quick. So, yeah, I gotta do it without my glasses. This is the Flower Princess, I believe, is being spoken about in the chat. You can see the crown up here, the petal wings, the dress that's kind of flowy, and I don't know if I would say necessarily stem-like, maybe more leaf-like. This is a 3D print. So So a little bit of cleanup needed, not a whole ton. It's kind of cool. The hair is like whipping up into the crown. So very dynamic sculpt. Lots of flow, lots of movement. And dynamic sculpts like this are great. I actually, when I saw this, I thought about taking it off the base and doing a more dynamic base with it. That's a little more challenging to do, but you could definitely do a lot with it. With some type of a scenic base, pop in some other elements to augment that paint job, because the base wise, I mean, the miniature just dwarfs the base, so you're not able to do much. So I thought a lot about that as I was thinking about this. Is there a way to do a more dynamic base? So I thought about getting like a 2" by 2" wooden block to then mount this on and have it almost like a little bit more scenic base that I can do on it, because this one here, there just isn't a whole lot you could do. But this, as it is really good for display, because you can paint that base in just a matte black and really have the figure itself stand out. So I think either way you can't go wrong. But yeah, area, or not area wise, miniature wise, I believe it's going to take paint pretty good. It is definitely a good resin, so it's not too stiff. It's got a little bit of flexibility, but it's not super soft. As you can see there, when we do a little bit of cleanup, it's got some rigidity to it, which is good. You want a little bit of rigidity, but you don't want it too rigid. And here's a little secret when you're doing these types of 3D print. I want to just look for where those sprues attach. Just give them a little bit of cleanup. Look for any place those little... So I don't know what the term is because I'm not a 3D printer. But I call them nipples and dimples because they have little tiny nipples or little tiny dimples where those little sprues were, depending on how much cleanup the artist did. You just want to even those out. And depending on the rigidity, will determine if you need a file, or if you can see on this one here, a hobby knife works really good. If it's too soft and you've got it too flexible, then you actually want to just use something hot, I have found. But you just got to look and see where their nipples and dimples are. Give those a little scrape and cleanup. Or you can use your files if you've got jeweler's files, which I use for my metal miniature cleanup. This figure really has me thinking like different aspects too. So part of me thinks like mint greens in here in some way would be really cool. I'm also feeling pinks and purples and whites. But I'm also kind of feeling vibrant blues. I don't know, a lot of my vibrant blues, I've played a lot more with blues, so I don't know that I'm feeling blues super deep. There's a little bit of sprue left there. Let's get that out. And of course, before we do anything, we will wash it. Get all those little bits off. Get all those little bits off. Make sure we've got everything cleaned up. And no debris left on the Mini, because we don't want these little slivers of debris getting in our paint. If we can help it at all. Yeah, no mentor green. Oh, glass dome. Yeah, black line box with fairy lights. You do, I've seen before where they've got it's like a wooden base and a glass dome over it. You build a cool diorama on that and still get those small fairy LED style lights in it. Something like that could be really cool. Just so long as the lights don't overwhelm the miniature. I know some of them you just get like so many lights. You really have to watch the size of the lights or how many lights there are, so it just isn't too overwhelming, because it is still a pretty small miniature. So you want that miniature to be the star of the show. So mint green, I think a big part of that goes back to Tinkerbell, maybe. I don't know, when I think about like fairies and stuff. And maybe mint green isn't the right thought process, but that kind of bright minty kind of green of Tinkerbell's dress. I don't know why, but every time I think about fairies, well, and I mean, I got a couple, I think, inspirations on that, but that mint green with red hair, very consistent thoughts that I have. Looks like this was dipped in an acetone, because it doesn't have, oftentimes you see the like lines in your 3D prints for the different layers depending on the materials used and I guess the printer they use. This one doesn't have any of those big lines, which is cool. Yeah, vivid light green. It's not mint. And again, I may have my colors off and not, I don't think I'm meaning like actual mint, but I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to compare greens sometime and see if my thought of mint is mint. There we go, not too shabby. Now it just needs a good wash with a little mild soap and warm water, and then dry out, and then a base coat, and then some painting. Yeah, so I'm almost thinking like purple in deep into white, so fading it from a purple into white into pink, or just opposite, more purple on the petal exteriors into white into pink. That way you get good separation on the layers of those. And down here I am debating doing something different, but I don't know. I mean, are those the same? Are those wings different layers from the skirt area? Probably do a very, very, very fair flesh tone on the skin. Hair yet to be determined based on the colors, but probably a blonde. And then the crown I was thinking of doing in possibly in greens. I thought about doing these bulbs with OSL, so you have light reflecting. The challenge is you're so far, I mean the closest one is here and it's almost to the side, so the OSL effect wouldn't be great. And it's a little funky the way it's growing up and out of here. Purple and light blue with dark hair. Yeah, I could do that. Thinking purple to the inside and blue to the out, or blue to the inside and purple to the out. And then dark hair, are you thinking darker than the dwarf? Yeah, definitely a great mini. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, knocking shit down. All right, back to finish this leather, because once I finish this leather, then I can take a little bit of a break and get a little bite to eat. I'm going to mix up some paint here. So this is my leather brown and tanned leather. And because I'm at my size 0 brush for much of this, I am not mixing with it because I don't want that to get into the furl. I'm actually going to work on the dwarf a little bit. And we're just doing some highlights. Where is that leather going to be stretched the tightest? So automatically we're pushing shadows in deeper, that base tone, and we're highlighting the wear areas on these gloves and pouch. So areas in the palm are going to get more wear. The tips of the fingers, right, the lower tips of the fingers. The knuckles, where they bend, we're going to get more wear. And I overpaint these areas a little bit because we've still got at least one more highlight that we want to do. So I overpaint a little bit so that my next highlight I can keep right nice and tight on the knuckle and really highlight those out. go down the finger just a little bit and up just a little bit from that knuckle. And then just a little bit on the back of the hand. And get that thumb knuckle. Same thing. A little bit above and below the knuckle. And again, you're not able to tell that on this 28 millimeter figure until we get that next level in there, unless you're right up on top of the figure. So it's a little bit challenging to see on screen, I imagine. But this sets us up for our final highlight to still blend with what's come before, but stand out from what's come before. So super, super important. Dark hair and purples. Tinkerbell's Friends. Tinkerbell's Friends, I will look up. I'll make myself a note of that right now, just so I remember. Tinkerbell's Friends. I believe I have seen that figure before, with dark hair and purples. I'm just not able to visualize it myself, but definitely will be a beautiful mini as I work on it. One commission coming up. We'll actually jump the line a little bit. How about that? Just because you're such a fan. There was a new message, sorry. All right, let's get into our Ranger a little bit more. So this is where I'm going to, I'm not going to be able to do that. Start popping out the wear pattern on these bits here. Really show that this cordage stuff here stands out. And then just like the pants, we are going to be building in variation on color for where that leather is getting more supple. Where is that wear pattern going to be most apparent? So this first level we do with lines and dashes and just even stroke painting. And the next layer we will do just like we did before with stippling. For the most part. Now this one I am painting this high ridge area completely because I want this seam, this hem, I don't know the right word for it. It is a decorative element on the boot to be a different component from the boot. So it will get painted completely with this highlight color, which is a 50-50 blend of leather brown and tanned leather. And then we will highlight it one level beyond where we do the boots. So that way we make it look and feel like a different element when we're looking at it as a display piece. And these boots are made for walk-in, so I did want to make these like a supple boot, which is why we are making these very different from the pants. But the soles of them, you can tell, I have not painted those yet because I am going to use that red leather recipe that we will do to make them look a little more rigid, because we want these to last as this ranger is going out in the wilds and crossing stones and broken branches and all that good stuff. I want there to be a strong indication of support and durability in the soles. So the soles will actually have that red color. Some good wear on the toe and the sides. And the heel. About those wear areas, what is areas that are going to get the most worn but also worked. So anytime you've got leather where it constantly bends in the same place, it's going to lighten up faster than others. So that's what we're focusing on for these boots. Same as with the gloves on the dwarf, the gloves in the pouch. And because this layer here is more broad spectrum, we get to move fairly fast through it compared to when we were doing that stippling on the pants. And those processes can take a long time. So you see with these boots, we're trucking right through this color pretty well. Doing pretty well getting these highlights built in here. Now it will slow down a bit again when we go to the stippling. Which I don't know how far we're going to get, because it is getting on time there. Let's brush out here. Let me actually get a quick drink here. feeling getting closer to a break time. I'm feeling getting closer. All right, let's get this other boot done here to this mid-tone. As I paint this boot here, there's almost like a, I used to know the word, but it's a fabric bit that you wear, a gaiter. It's almost like a gaiter that's above the pant, on top of the pant, but in the boot. As I was painting the boot, its base color, I thought, should I make that a different color so it stands out as a different component? I was thinking, well, do I paint it like wools, like grays? But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what, maybe it's just a super high element to the boot. It's hard to say for sure, and I don't want to take a whole long time studying this miniature. I want to, this one has been on my shelf of shame for a while. Just getting it assembled and getting paint on it is super rewarding. So I don't want to spend a long time debating what each and every little element of the miniature is. So I decided, nope, I am not going to go that route. I am going to instead paint it as part of the boot, and if anybody calls me out on it, I'll just say it is just a leather gaiter that's a part of the boot because I said so. But then I start second guessing myself and thinking, no, that's not right. That's not the right thing to do. And same thing on this side. I'm going to paint that lip, that hem, completely with this blend to match our highlighting area. Which we will highlight further using our tanned leather and then bleached leather. I was really hoping that I was faster at this aspect because I really did want to get those red leathers done today. I just don't think I'm going to be able to. At least not before lunch anyhow. When I get those red leathers done for the druid and that sorceress, then I can start popping in there additional colors that we're going to have. But again, not all of them are going to be that great. So like the sorceress is going to be reds and blacks. So nothing like eye-popping there. And the druid, I'm just not 100% sure yet. Thought about some pinks and maroons. So the druid, instead of a just tree druid, instead of a tree hugging druid, it's a fungal druid. So mushrooms and things like that. And I know mushrooms come in wide variety of colors and everything. So there's aspects that I can use for more color there. I've just got to decide the palette that I want to use and then go for it. Get those paints ready to go. Get them on your palette and then just go for it. Keep it the same color with red. I thought about red for the druid. I thought about red. For the sorceress is going to have red and black because she's a goth. So that one is based off of a character that we built on my Wednesday night show, and to make it different and unique, the sorceress is a goth. She thinks she's got vampire blood, so it's going to be very very red and black goth themed. Kind of fun, but also not very much there. So the underside of the cloak is going to be red, and more like a satiny red, so I'm going to highlight it up, and that's this one here. So under the cloak, red. Have leather on that upper halter area and that belt and the vambraces. And then the cloak, the back of the cloak is going to be black, and then that upper part, the collar is going to match the cloak, so black and then the brighter red. That upper portion is going to be deep reds. So not very inventive on this one at all. Red, black, and then black hair. I was thinking about doing the roots blonde, so it looked like blonde hair that had been dyed, but I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off or not. So I don't think I'm going to go that route. Now, just for a couple of hits here, just to finish out this color, I am going to do a little bit of stippling with this. So this is the 50-50 blend that we were doing on the boots. So I'm just going to drop a little bit of this in on the highest areas of this figure. Just a little bit of stippling to really drive in the fact that there is wear in the tightest areas and the most worked areas. So thighs to me are an area that make me think there would be lots of rubbing there. And then again, just the super highest areas. Doesn't take much. bit on the outer upper thigh, just a little bit, and the knees. Whew. Devil is in the details. Now we're on to our tanned leather. Well, I'm not going to do the boots on this part here, I don't think, just yet. I'm going to start here on these straps, or cordages, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm probably going to move on to the Dwarf and get the pouch and the gloves done. And then I'll probably take a break and let's see, how long have we been going? Almost 3 hours, my gracious sakes. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a break time after I get this Dwarf. Well, I don't know, maybe I'll finish out the boots. Maybe I'll finish out the boots just so they're done. Knuckles. Little bits in those palms. Under the fingers, the very tips. That's good for now. I think I'm going to finish these boots. Then I think I'm going to call it a day. Maybe work on a game a little bit. Take a good break. So, let's start on this one. Now this area here is where I'm going to be really focused on not covering up what I did before. What are your biggest wear areas? Where that leather is the most worked, the most supple. Some stippling, but mostly just line. heavy now, so get that nice and thin. I'm not chatting much. Again, this is just on this stuff here, super tight, and I just want to make sure I'm doing good service to the miniature. So, if I'm too quiet, I apologize. But sometimes it's nice just to be able to shut my mouth and pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm trying to do it really well. And again, just looking at where are those boots going to wear the most? Where are they going to bend and stretch? Where's that wear pattern going to be? Little bits of stippling into some lining. Ooh. I know it's probably not super evident, the variance. Let me get my hand up behind it. Well, let me get my glasses on first, I suppose. All right, so you can see the more worn areas and aspects of that boot versus the other. So quite a variance, quite a variance. Definitely more worn in. So that's the aspect that I'm really going for, is that boot being very worn in. All righty. Again, I apologize ahead of time. I'm probably going to be pretty quiet as I do this one as well. get this leather done and take a little bit of a break. And same thing, where are the areas that this boot bends the most? Where's the pressure? Where's the wear? Toes get scuffed pretty good. Little bits on the side. Around your ankle. Always. High spots. That heel, we'll get some lines into some speckling. Whew. Now we can go through and add some white leather, just a little bit of white leather into our tanned leather, and go and do just some additional highlights if we really want to get those kind of worn and dusty, which we'll probably do on the lower aspects of the boot. But when compared to where we started, we've got these beautiful leather pants that have this leather cordage. I think they came out really well. And these leather boots. And we've got our bow highlighted so that we've got a lot of figure to it, as well as the arrow and the shafts of the arrow. So we've still got the fletching to do. And we've got all these different belts and all of these things that we're going to be doing. My plan is to have this belt and this corset thing and the scabbard and this element here. Well, maybe not this element here, but have those other aspects anyhow for sure be this red leather, ruddy leather. Same with the dwarf's boots, will also be ruddy leather. Same with our sorceress's armor and belt and vambraces. And then for the druid, we're not going to do any of that initially. I thought about doing some in the upper area, but I decided instead we're going to avoid that. We may do the glove, this hawking glove, and this glove in those colors, but we're not worried about that right now. So this one we're going to move into colors of the dress next. And of course our newly commissioned Flower Princess Fairy. Oh yes, very nice shoes for sure. 100%, 100% nice shoes. And yeah, cat just going crazy. So I am going to take a break now, go get some food and have a little lunch. If you were able to join me for my casting today, I do appreciate it. It was a lot of, excuse me, fun to paint and very different paint of the day. Let's just pop on here what we've gotten going so far. I think some very, very good miniatures moving right along. I do want to see now how that looks. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Those boots aren't too bad. A good shape to them. And yeah, coming along really good. So overall, very happy with where we're at on our miniatures. And of course, we will keep doing more as we can. For sure, tomorrow we're at the studio at noon. So we will have some painting going on tomorrow starting at noon. So hope to see you then, and have a fantastic day. And until next time, we'll see you.